Brighton 2, Manchester United 1, and it was João Pedro with a late heartbreaker to give Brighton the 3 points and send Manchester United packing without anything away from home. And honestly, I can't say that I'm outraged. I can't say that I am upset. I can only honestly, hand on heart, say that I am disappointed. Because yet again, Manchester United have proven me right. And I hate being right, especially when my opinion or prediction is negative. Because I don't want to be negative about my football club, but I also don't want to lie and pretend to be positive. I'm not feeling very good about our ability on the pitch at the moment, and I am not feeling very good about our season. And today is yet another example why. Now, Erik ten Hag is where I want to start, because even though he made some really good substitutions, I don't agree with his starting 11 today. And when I saw Mount and Bruno both on the team sheet, I was like, here we go again. When I saw Rashford on that left wing, I said, here we go again. Another one of these performances where we're going to have to wait for an hour before we change something. And to be fair to Erik ten Hag, today he actually rectified his mistakes. So I'll give him credit. In fact, I won't even blame him for the loss because he subbed on Xerxes at halftime and I think took off Mount, which was a good substitution. Not that Mount is to blame for the result, and not that I think subbing off Mason Mount magically changes everything, but I have an issue with Mount and Bruno starting in the same team. And here's why. I feel like when Bruno plays in the false nine, it reminds me of when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer used to play Pogba on the left wing because he wanted to accommodate McFred and he wants to shoe on him one of his best players because he doesn't have the balls and the courage to put him on the bench. As a manager, you cannot compromise the balance of your team to make one individual happy. If you're not going to start them in their preferred position where they contribute positively to the team, then what you don't do is play them in another position where you displace someone else and ruin the balance of the team. Xerxes should be starting up front. I don't want to see Bruno playing as a false nine. I love Bruno Fernandes. He's one of my favorite players at the club. But Erik ten Hag needs to make a decision. He's obviously not going to drop Bruno because Bruno's the captain and one of his best players. So drop Mount. It really is that simple. It's not rocket science because you can't start them both in the midfield. You cannot play a midfield three with Mount and Bruno. And you also cannot play with Mount as the 10 and Bruno as the false 9. So the only logical explanation after that is drop Mason Mount because you're obviously not going to do it to Bruno. If you were, I would suggest you do that, and let's see how that goes. But it's never going to happen. That's my issue with Erik ten Hag. And then starting Marcus Rashford again, it's not a huge deal. The reason why it upsets me so much is because I feel like we're going to see this for the rest of the season. I feel like we're never going to reach a point where Marcus Rashford doesn't actually start for Manchester United because he seems to be untouchable under Erik ten Hag. That's my issue with it. If next week or in game week 4 or game week 5 or game week 10, we actually see Rashford spend a period of time on the bench for someone like an Alejandro Garnacho, and there is actual meritocracy when it comes to Marcus Rashford, I will not complain about it ever again. I won't even bring it up. But the fact that I feel like we're going to see another season of Rashford continuously starting, despite being in bad form and despite not contributing positively to the team, it's pissing me off, and I cannot pretend like I'm happy about it. So that's where I have an issue with Erik ten Hag. But again, I don't blame him for the loss because he rectified those changes. He actually took Rashford off. He actually took Mason Mount off. And he actually made changes to the team. He brought McTominay on as well, who I don't think performed that badly when he came on. It then just becomes about the individuals. That goal that we conceded to Brighton in the first half was poor. It was silly. And the second goal, I can't decide which goal was worse between the João Pedro goal and the goal that Welbeck scored. Because that second goal, there was 2 players unmarked on the back post. And when you watch the replay back from a certain angle, the angle that shows from the goalkeeper's point of view, so the angle that's behind the goal, because that's the replay that I saw of the goal on the feed that I was watching, it looks even worse. Because there's about 8 Manchester United players all so narrow and packed. They're not all inside the box, but they're all occupying the same zone. Neither of them are actually paying attention to that left half space or right half space if you're looking from the Brighton point of view. None of them were paying attention to that right half space. De Ligt, Mazraoui, Delo, Martinez, Casemiro, everyone who was in that box was all in like a small little zone, not watching the back post. And I'm thinking to myself, how on earth have you all decided to mark the same space or the same zone? And none of you thought, you know what? I think it might actually be a good idea to just look over my shoulder and make sure somebody's got the back post covered. Just in case, considering it's the 96th minute, we're about to get a draw away from home that we don't really deserve. Let me just make sure that my teammates have got this, because this is a pretty important set piece at the end of the game. And if we should concede here, it's over. We're not getting the 3 points. But no, nobody's watching the back post. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, they might score. And then it happens. João Pedro, header, goal, late celebrations, heartbreak for Manchester United. And again, we'll be told it's fine margins. We'll be told, if we had just taken our chances, then XYZ wouldn't have happened. If, buts, and maybes. I'm tired. I'm so tired. I want it to end. When is it going to end, Robbie? When is it going to end? But again, I don't want to be too negative. It is only game week 2. So I'm not going to say Erik ten Hag or anything like that. Erik ten Hag out or anything like that. I'm just going to zip my mouth and I'm going to let him and his coaching staff, I'm going to give them a grace period to cook. But I'm not going to lie with you guys. My patience is wearing thin when it comes to this manager and when it comes to these players, some of these players, especially the ones who've been here for a while. I don't want to see Maguire start again. I'm not blaming him for the goal. I just think that De Ligt should be starting because he is our new signing. The same way I think Xerxes should be starting. The same way I think Mazraoui, who is starting, should be starting. And that's good on Erik ten Hag. Well done for starting your new right back. Can we see the striker play that we signed, by the way, to play in that position? And can we see De Ligt, who's most certainly not a squad player and is most certainly better than Harry Maguire, start from now on? And can we also stop this experiment of Bruno in the false 9? Because it has never worked, and by the looks of today, it will never work anytime soon. There is no evidence, there is no logic, there is no rationale as to why Bruno Fernandes should be starting in the false 9 ahead of Joshua Xerxes, who, 1, we signed to play in the number 9 position, and 2, we look like a better team every time he's come on, which is the Fulham game and the Brighton game now. I don't want to hear any excuses. And also, big up to Amad Diallo, because that was a big goal for him. I think there's strong reservations about him starting, considering that he just lost his mother. But under the circumstances, I understand, because I don't think someone held a gun to his head and forced him to start. I think he would have made that decision on his own, the same way Ronaldo played when he had lost his unborn child, right? Some players just prefer to get back to work, and that's a personal choice that we need to respect. If anything, that's a decision for the management to make, and I don't really want to have that conversation because I don't think it's really relevant, right? I'm not going to sit here and get mad at Erik ten Hag for starting Amad Diallo, because why would I? And if it wasn't for Amad Diallo starting, actually, we wouldn't have been in a position to snag the 3 points anyway. So moving on, Alejandro Garnacho, unfortunate that his goal was offside. I thought he was really impactful when he came off the bench, and I think we're starting to see how Alejandro Garnacho should be used at Manchester United. I think off the bench against tired legs, he is an absolute cheat code, and I love it for him. But at the same time, as much as I don't think Alejandro Garnacho should be a guaranteed starter week in, week out, there is a part of me that's thinking, but he can't be much worse than Rashford. And so there is a part of me that's starting to contradict myself, and it's starting to say, maybe Garnacho should be starting every week. Not because I think he's good enough, and in an ideal situation, I would want him to be the standard for Manchester United wingers right now, but just because I don't think Rashford's that good. I think Garnacho should be starting. Again, I want to make this abundantly clear, not because I think he's ready and not because I think he's this world-class winger who's ready to take the reins at Manchester United and wear the number 7 shirt and all this nonsense that some people in our fan base spew. Just because of the circumstances. I don't think Rashford is in good form, and I think on merit and on form, Garnacho is a better player right now. I'm not talking about ability. I'm not talking about legacy. I'm not talking about trophies won. I'm not talking about goals scored. I'm not comparing past seasons. I'm just talking about right here, right now. And I have to make that abundantly clear because this is the internet and people love to twist and take things out of context nowadays. So it's important to give a disclaimer before you give your opinion because that's just what the internet has done to us content creators, unfortunately. We can't just say what we think. We must now give disclaimers and say what we don't think. Otherwise, people get offended. And even after we give disclaimers, people still get offended. Anyways, well done to Brighton. They played well. I thought on the balance of it, they were probably the better team, to be honest. And I can't believe a team with James Milner in their midfield is just bossing Manchester United. But I should believe it because Manchester United haven't been good for a very long time, especially in the midfield. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so pessimistic about my team's chances this season in terms of making top 4, in terms of getting back into the Champions League, in terms of challenging for titles. I'm very pessimistic about Manchester United. In terms of going forward behind the scenes as a club and fixing the mess that the Glazers have created, I'm still very optimistic about that. I'm still very much willing to give Ineos time and give them the benefit of the doubt because they've swayed my opinion this summer. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be a fool and stop predicting Manchester United to win the league and all this nonsense because, you know, it's not going to happen. We're not there yet. We're clearly not there yet. and it's going to take a long time for these backroom changes to manifest onto the football pitch. But anyways, I've waffled enough. So it's been your boy Triple M. I am going to leave you to it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening, whether you're a United fan or not. I hope you subscribe to the channel if you are new, and support the channel by leaving a like and maybe a comment if you did enjoy that video. If you did make it to the end, thank you, as usual, for taking time out of your day to listen to me waffle about football. I appreciate it. Peace.